Hello, this is PJ CAPOSEY, Superintendent of Schools for Meridian 223. I have constructed a four-part series in which I will discuss things that parents should know about social media and how their students are utilizing it. The series is broken down into four parts. Part 1 is 5 things that your students want you to know about social media. Part 2 is 5 things your students don't want you to know about social media. Part 3 is 5 things that your students may not even know themselves. And then Part 4 will be about the things that I would like you to know. My exploration into trying to figure out how to best communicate social media issues to our parents has been one of the last 10 years. I have embraced social media on a personal and professional level and have been a big advocate for it. However, I am very aware of the issues that it brings forward in schools. And so trying to work through and figure out how I can best communicate to parents about the issues in a way that they can actually engage in a conversation with their students. So instead of having a long 45-minute presentation in the gym, which would probably be sparsely attended, thought that the best way for me to get this information across is to construct a 4-part series of videos, of which I'm thankful that you're watching. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone of what our mission and our vision are. So obviously you can read the slide in front of you, but our goal in doing this is to provide a service to our community, as we know that social media is part of the world that we live in and a part of the world that our students live in. In order for us to be as effective as we possibly can, we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to not only promote the use of social media so that students are using it wisely and effectively, but also be a partner to our parents so that you know what is possibly taking place with your students, or how to have some tips and techniques as to if you are not familiar with technology, or even if you are, on things that we think that you can do to help better the communication with your student regarding their use of social media. Thank you for tuning into part 3 of this 4-part series. Part 1 was about 5 things that your students wanted you to know about social media. Part 2 is 5 things that your students didn't necessarily want you to know. And this part is essentially talking about things that most of those students that I met with didn't know, or things that I learned through the conversations with them and then try to support with research that they don't know about social media that I think that as a parent that you probably want to be. The first thing is pretty simple, and I think we understand it, but I just wanted to put it out there, is that social media is perhaps the most attention-seeking spectrum that we could ever invent or create, right? So this is truly, the intent is to connect people, but what it has turned into is a competition for likes and smiley faces and followers and fans. And so we should have a realization and help our kids realize that the behaviors that they're exhibiting are really attention seeking, and try to figure out, based on their behaviors and actions, how and why they're trying to attract attention. So is it through being outspoken and divisive? Is it through being provocative and sexualizing themselves? Is it through braggadocious behavior? Or are they just using it appropriately? There's also the potential that is happening as well. But I think that this is an important point of conversation for parents to have with their kids about the attention-seeking nature of social media. Not that all kids are using it that way, but that it lends itself very easily to that. Number 2 is that this came up in conversation, sometimes directly and somewhat indirectly, but the access to pornography for our kids, particularly at younger ages, all the way through high school. Pornography is ubiquitous on the internet. And so unless it's something that you are taking really proactive steps of blocking on your Wi-Fi router, which is very possible, Google it, YouTube it, it's pretty simple, or you're having really strict, firm conversations with your kids, that it's just something that we are, I think, aware of in terms of common sense, and that the kids are aware of in common sense. I just think that a lot of people are not having the conversation. And when I say that I think a lot of people are not having the conversation, when I asked the kids directly that I met with, a lot of people are not having the conversation. So just want to put that out there, and you can store that in your parenting hat however you see fit. This is one of the cooler things that kind of came out as a theme, and it was never a question I asked when I met with the kids, but it came out pretty directly, is that kids are not sharing with their adults in their life simply because they're afraid that we're going to ask a bunch of annoying questions. And so I immediately reflected back on my behavior as a parent And so when my sixth grader, my fifth grader share something with me, I bomb them with 50 annoying questions instead of just letting the conversation kind of marinate and probe a little bit here and try to get some additional information. Instead, I am just all over them. And so what was shared with me is that this is the reason we don't share stuff, is because it's annoying to talk with you guys about it. And I know that as parents, we hate hearing the word annoying, and it's disrespectful, and we don't want kids saying that. But I'm just telling you that as another adult in their life, in whatever capacity I am, and when I asked them the question, I got a very real answer. That's what they said. So I think it's just something for us to be mindful of. If we really want to influence their behavior on social media, and probably in general, then it's largely about our relationship with them and trying to leverage that to influence them in the positive way. And what is preventing us from having those real conversations a lot of time is that our annoying questions shut down our kids. So figuring out how to navigate around. Next is ghost apps. So this came up in one of the conversations I had, not really in the other two. Ghost apps may or may not be big in your particular school or your particular area at this time, but they kind of come and go in terms of where they are in terms of fad. But essentially what they are is they're an app that looks like any other app on the phone. However, a lot of times what people do is they store inappropriate conversations, pictures, etc. under these apps. The most popular one was kind of highlighted through a sexting scandal that happened in Colorado. It posed as a calculator, and then if you punched in a code in the calculator when you opened it, then it unleashed all your pictures that you were saving there. And if you didn't, you just typed in anything else, then it just acted as a calculator. So as a parent checking someone's phone, it prevented you from knowing all of those things. So just something for you to be aware of. I don't think that necessarily our area has a problem with this right now, but I think it's something that could spike at any moment. And lastly, and this was really cool to learn, kind of sad at the same time, is that social media is a place for kids to share feelings and emotions that they might not be comfortable sharing elsewhere, which is really positive and really negative. But what I learned from that is that social media is potentially the most real that somebody is, and on the same hand, it could be the most fake. So it's a really interesting kind of dichotomy for a parent to seek through. But when we are emotional about something as a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th grader, a lot of them don't have the emotional maturity to not bring that angst or anger to social media, and that's where a lot of the drama that we see kind of building up comes from. So I think that, again, if you're monitoring your kids' social media usage and you have a good relationship with your kids' friends so that they can alert you to things, I think you're going to see kind of the trajectory of their life mirrored through social media fairly well. Now, there's the other extreme where everyone just shares their best version of themselves. I think we do that more as adults maybe than kids do, right? Like, so we don't talk about when we had an argument with our spouse, and we don't talk about when the house needs cleaned up, but we take a picture of a beautiful dinner, and when our kids are finally doing something cute, we take a picture of that. We show the best version of ourselves too. Kids are maybe a little bit more authentic, is what I learned going through this experience with them. So again, just 5 quick things that I wanted to share with you. Perhaps your kids don't know that they don't know about social media. Again, this is part 3 of a 4-part series. Please tune into part 4. Part 4 is just what I wanted to share, what I learned through the experience of interacting with kids and doing research on how we can best help parents support their kids through the difficult time that is 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade in the land of social media. Thank you, and make it a great day.